Our method of travel is all about freedom, not speed. To boldly go where no skidoo has gone before. And we were about to find out why. Mr. Wake stopped, scanning our path from right to left. He stooped and started attacking the very ground at his feet with his pole. Soon I understood as I saw the slump of the crevasse stretched across our path, running down to the ice cliffs and the frozen sea beyond. It seemed solid, so Mr. Wake crossed. No matter what you know of the depths of snow bridges and the loads they can withstand, I challenge anyone not to feel ever so slightly squirty as they take their first step out onto one. We had truly entered the crevasse terrain, and now was the time to keep the eyes peeled for the telltale signs of the icy chasms of doom. The first warning may just be the profane crack before the world collapses beneath your feet. Mercifully, the slots were well spaced, and Mr. Wake seemed to have little trouble spotting them in the bright sunshine. As we moved along N2, we spied a pair of day trippers on its summit, waving and cheering us on. On skidoos, they had managed to circumvent us on the safe ground to the west, and climb the small hillock to get a better view of us pass by. In that time of danger, it did lift the spirits to see the chaps turn out to applaud our brave enterprise. But our elation was to be short-lived. As we moved around the foot of Tom, the most easterly of the Stokes Peaks, the wind speed increased, and soon life became difficult. Drifting snow and gathering cloud reduced the visibility and contrast, so we hugged the hills tight. Although we knew we ran the risk of wandering down into a windscoop, or even a bergstrand that close to the hills, we also knew to our right, unseen in the whiteout, was the sheer drop of the ice cliff. As we progressed, the weather intensified further. Soon we were forging ahead into the whiteness in a full 30-knot headwind, with gusts that would knock us to our feet. The area in which we were caught is obviously regularly battered by strong northerly winds funneled down the fjord, creating a surface of hard-packed snow, haphazard stroogie, and patches of blue ice. Added to which we started to travel downhill, a blessing you might have thought, but it merely exaggerated our problems. Travelling uphill with the heavy loads is mere physical exertion. Any man can overcome that. Not being able to see our feet and being rammed up the rear by our pulks on every slide forward meant we were stumbling every few meters. We were making no headway at all. As I sat in a heap on the floor once more, Mr. Wake came to me through the maelstrom. "We've got to take off the skis. We are going to break something." I agreed. This was no place for an accident. We managed to swap skis for crampons and walked the pulks down into what we soon discovered was a deep windscoop. As we trudged the 90-kilogram loads up the slope, I reflected on the names we had chosen earlier for our pulks. We had named them Fiennes and Stroud after the last great explorer and physician partnership. It was not long before we tore their heroic titles from them, and Mr. Wake renamed his companies, and I affectionately dubbed mine Through the gloom, we saw a hill emerge that we could gain some shelter behind, and made plans to storm pitch the tent. Storm pitching is a tricky venture at the best of times, but in a storm it is even more precarious. One man belays the tip of the tent up to an upright position, whilst the other skillfully guides the legs into pre-dug holes. Then it is secured with pegs and guy ropes. After much consternation and old-fashioned elbow grease, we had erected our little castle in the snow, and we saw that it was good. Day 2. First approach on Sighing Peak. We both slept like the dead. Overnight the conditions had improved. We made the decision to advance into the limit of the crevasse fields ahead and see whether crossing them was feasible. Alas, the contrast was too poor. There was no way we could cross in safety. But we did work out exactly where we were located. We are 3 km south of our intended campsite. We have taken shelter in the lee side of a hill which we mistook for Arthur of the Stokes Peaks in the appalling conditions. It is but an insignificant 200-metre hillock which has no name. Insignificant or no, it did provide us with enough of a windbreak to survive, so I will forever be in its debt. We decided to climb this hitherto unknown pinnacle, and I suggested naming it the Wake. Not wanting to be associated with, and I quote, such a tiny mound of chossy shite, Mr. Wake politely refused, and so I, not having such delusions of grandeur, decided to unofficially name it the Dock. But even after the naming of Peak on our first day, could not lift our spirits, for we still had not set eyes on the mountain we had come so far to climb. God willing, tomorrow will bring us better fortune. Day 3. Lie up. Last night, on our scheduled radio contact back to Rotherham, Mike the magician gave us warning of a monstrous low-pressure weather system that he predicted would put the very stitching of our poor tent to the test. This was not good news. We are now stuck in the grip of a horrendous hoolie, haranguing and near bursting through our wretched ventile walls. It was difficult to sleep, but I managed a few hours in the cacophony. Mr. Wake's rest was disturbed by more than just the catabatics.
Chops! Chops!
His family legacy weighs heavily upon him, and must intensify with every step we take. Poor chap. We must patiently persist in our fabric prison until our tormentor fades away. We are engaged only in the simple, mundane processes of reading, cooking, and of course, writing this journal. Mr. Wake seems unfazed by our entrapment. I even think he likes it.
An interesting opportunity to develop moral fibre.
He does have a domestic mastery over tent life, and has a miraculous prowess with a lamp and stove. Without him, I would probably have been quite uncomfortable by now. Day 4. More lie up. Will this torment never cease? Mystic Mike informs us that this low-pressure system is quite stationary. Like a carpenter at Smoko, it shows no intention of getting up to leave any time soon. We are in the storm's embrace for yet another day. As the wrath outside continued, I suggested an innovative system by which one may be able to avoid venturing outside to defecate. I even created a blueprint of how it could be accomplished. Mr. Wake is not keen. So I have now reluctantly entered an exclusive club of men who have had to squat to perform their business, bare buttocks exposed to the Antarctic fury. I'm afraid this experience may have lasting ramifications for my psyche. And yet I am already afraid paranoia is beginning to grip me. I suspect that for reasons unknown, Mr. Wake has exchanged the yellow tape on my pee bottle. We must get out of this tent soon.